very pleased to have the opportunity to express solidarity with rank and file seafarers who are members of the Maritime Union of Australia. You have an important role in defending the right of Australians to have ships around our coast which have the Australian flag at the back and which employ Australian seafarers. This is in our national security, in our economic and also in our environmental interest. That's why we reformed the Navigation Act of 1912 in 2012. After 100 years of neglect, we modernised the Act. We also made sure that we complied with the Maritime Labour Convention. But what's happened since is we have a government that's been prepared to exploit the temporary licence provisions and engage licences for work that's anything but temporary, such as we saw with the MV Portland dispute last year. All Australians who understand the national interest should stand with the MUA on this issue and should stand up for the Australian national interest.
Labor does not support what is going on with Australian merchant shipping. We understand the fundamental value of having an Australian flagged merchant marine. Now we've got laws that this government are bringing in which allow overseas flagged and crewed ships to undercut Australian operators on our domestic sea routes. Laws designed to remove Australian workers and Australian conditions. There is no level playing field when you have a government doing this. Malcolm Turnbull has a plan to take down the Australian flag on all of our domestic sea lanes, and he's running up the white flag on jobs.
The Turnbull-Abbott government is determined to throw our shipping industry overboard, but the Greens stand with workers and the MUA to stop them. At stake are Australian jobs, our national security and our marine environment. If the government gets its way, we're facing a future of virtually no ships crewed by Australian workers. And we're seeing it already, from the Alexander Spirit to the MV Portland to the tragic events on the Sage Sagittarius. We're seeing the beginning of what will happen if Turnbull goes ahead with deregulating the local shipping industry. And the very real concerns about workplace conditions and compliance with safety and environmental standards on flags of convenient ships are completely justified. We have Australian workers thrown out of their jobs, overseas workers being paid as little as $2 an hour, and basic safety conditions that are there to save lives being thrown out. And it's being aided and abetted by the coalition government.
This issue is not only highlighting the issue of wages in Australian crews, but it's also highlighting the whole fuel security aspect of where Australia is at the moment when it comes to bringing fuel in. So we've got a safety issue around our shorelines, we've got well-paid jobs that are being lost, replaced by people on very low wages. Harks back to the ships of shame argument when it comes to how people are treated on the seas. I think this is an issue that should galvanise the country to make sure that we protect these people, the jobs, and allow the whole country to understand just how important it is to stand up for them.
You worked through the Rudd and Gillard years with our Transport Minister Anthony Albanese to actually try and make sure that we continue to have Australian shipping with safe conditions, with decent pay, and all the Liberals have done since coming to government has been to attack the pay and conditions, to undermine your jobs.
They know once you're broken, it's all over Red Rover. So, stand strong, fellas. Stand strong.
The member for Bass.
Mr Speaker, my question is to the Prime Minister. Australian seafarers aboard the CSL Brisbane, including Andrew Halliday from my electorate, were made redundant by their foreign-owned employer, Canada's Steamship Lines. But there are 457 visa holders working for the same company on a similar vessel off Western Australia. Isn't it the case that the Prime Minister is so focused on his own job that he's forgotten about the jobs of Australian seafarers like Andrew, who's in the public gallery today?
Hi, I'm Ross Hart. I'm the Labor member for Bass. Look, I'd like to thank all members and supporters of the MUA for the wonderful assistance they gave me during the federal election campaign. I understand the value of the Australian Maritime College and Australian seafarers that are serving our coastal vessels. It's really important that we support the well-paid jobs within our community like seafarers. Thank you once again for your assistance in the election campaign.
The Jones Act, although it is, from what I understand, a little bit more stringent than the maritime cabotage laws here in Australia, requires the use of U.S.-owned, U.S.-built, and U.S.-operated ships for our coast-wide trade, which in the United States includes up and down our coasts. It includes up to up to Alaska. It includes out to Hawaii. It includes to Puerto Rico. And it also includes about 22,000 miles of inland transportation means, all of our major rivers, the Mississippi, the Ohio, the Columbia River.
22,000 miles.
22,000 miles of inland waterways.
And we said to the public, and we said to Four Corners program, that if this is the system that provides for FOC, and if the Australian government is intent on doing away with the Australian industry, then this is the industry. This is the style of shipping, the registration of shipping that immediately comes in and fills that vacuum, and that's happened. In previous inquiries at this, in front of you and Senator Heffernan, I've spoken about national security. Senator Heffernan said that nothing much has changed. Well, something has changed since the last time I was before you both, and that is that the Australian industry has suffered even more cutbacks and more ships have gone off the Australian coast, only to be replaced, as we've said, by flag of convenience ships.
Today I rise to speak about the uncertain future that those workers, those seafarers on the CSL Brisbane have in front of them. In particular, last week I met with Paul and Thomas, two men who found out only a number of weeks ago, unexpectedly, that they would have no longer work on the CSL Brisbane. Now, the CSL Brisbane is a ship that predominantly carries commodities from one Australian port to another Australian port. Unfortunately, despite seeking assurances, seafarers on this ship have been now told that there will not be work in the future. It is of great concern that it looks like the CSL Brisbane that is now docked in Singapore will be replaced, the Australian crew will be replaced by foreign crew. This is an unacceptable situation and one that this government needs to address.
G'day guys, how you going? I'm Jackie Lambie from Tasmania. I probably know most of you out there. Hang in there guys, I know things are really tough. I know that we're now down to 6 flag flying ships and that's really disappointing. I can tell you now, I'm working double time. There's others up here working double time. We have a paper that we're trying to get released, which you'll hear more about after Christmas. We're working really hard, guys, to try and keep what jobs you have and start recreating or rebuilding future shipping for Australia, I can tell you now. And I won't be going away. I'm here for 6 years and I'll be giving it everything I've got. So pray that Labor gets in next time because you're going to need them, and I want to see you guys back out in those ships because I can tell you now, another 10 years we won't have the trade skills and we won't have the people, and I wish the bloody Liberal Party would open their eyes and wake up to this fact because it's part of our national security. Have a great Christmas, guys. Always great to hear from you guys, and I'll see you in the new year.